Welcome to the Mr. Universe Meets podcast, in association with the Mansummation Programme. Now, the Mansummation Programme is a 12-week programme for men that want to level up their training, nutrition, lifestyle and mindset so that they can live in a body that looks great, feels great and has unstoppable energy. On this podcast, we're going to be speaking to athletes that have reached the top of their game to understand their mindset, habits and routines and what makes them elite. I want you to take advantage of the lessons they teach and go and smash your own goals. I would love it if you guys would like, share and subscribe and enjoy the podcast. All right, so today we are joined by Darren Sadler. In his competitive career, he was the winner of the World Strongman Challenge for the under 105 kilogram category, winner of England's strongest man at that weight, placed third in the England and Britain Strongman Open class, and he's qualified for the World's Strongest Man 4 times. Quite a CV you've got there, mate. Can you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you got started on your strongman journey?
Yeah, well, how did I get started? Really, just started training in a gym and didn't like a lot of the conventional movements, really. A bit sort of lost. I went to the gym because I just lost some weight. I used to compete, do a lot of cycling, kayaking, things like that. And I just sort of, I was getting a lot of migraines, basically. So I lost a bit of weight, and someone said, maybe you come to the gym with us. So I went to the gym, and I just liked heavy leg press and things like that, and just literally met a couple of guys in there that went to strongman, and just got hooked on it about just before I was 17 years old, and just couldn't let it go. I'd sort of left school, had a few jobs here and there, didn't know what I wanted to do. I thought I knew what I wanted to do until I left school and got into the real world, and just was a bit unfulfilled, really. And I always thought I could do something, but I didn't know what. You know what I mean? There was nothing out there for me. I thought I wasn't academic. The jobs that were out there that I could do, I didn't want to do. And I've always worked. And it's not that I've been lazy. I just wasn't enjoying what I was doing. And then realised I was quite a bit stronger than average. So I just clung to it.
Yeah. Which gym was that you trained at to start with?
It was called Bodyworks in Harrogate.
Yeah. I remember, obviously when I started getting into the bodybuilding, I was I started at the gym about 15 years old. So I remember being between that 15, 16, 17 and hearing about this young lad that was in Harrogate just lifting some crazy weights, obviously yourself. So you obviously got quite a that reputation starting from quite a young age. Yeah,
all relative. Obviously what I was lifting then was nothing compared to what I could lift now, or even when I was competing. But for a 16-year-old lad, I was really strong, and he got picked up by a few guys that were in the know. And because I was in a funny stage of my life where, what am I going to do with my life? I sort of clung to it. Nowhere else to go, sort of thing. And when you're not sure what you want to do, and someone says, "Oh, you're good at that," I think it really makes you focus on it. And then I just literally was like, right, that's what I want to do. I want to go to World's Strongest Man. And while I was 16, I'd said I want to go to World's Strongest Man. I was about 12 and a half stone, and I had no right to say that, really, but I was just convinced that I could get there. And quite sad, really, because a couple of people around me that I sort of looked up to, a couple of coaches, were like, you can't do that because you're too short. So I was like, right, and I never listened to them, And then I was very lucky because the people that I met moving forward, that I trained with, were totally different. They had every faith in me because they were like, if you're doing that now, and they could see the progression, I was getting stronger every week. By the time I was 18, I was beating a lot of the pros. By the time I was 20, I was well into a pro career from walking in the gym at 16. And I just loved it. I just fucking absolutely loved doing it.
And is that why you think you progressed so fast? Because you just kind of went, I've got no other interests or other options. I'm going to go all in on this.
Yeah. When I look now, obviously I'm in a different stage of my life, doing business and promoting strongman. And I look at the young lads now, and I sort of get it. It's taken till now to work myself out, because the lads that haven't got any commitments, as in children, business, things like that, they're just so focused. They eat when they want, They're sleeping a lot more. They're training when they want. And I think it's very, very selfish. But that is, I think any sport, if you're at the top of it, it is a bit selfish because you've got to throw everything into it. And back then, that's how I was. It was like, right, wake up on the morning, eyes up, and how am I going to get stronger today? What am I doing? What's my next competition? Whereas as time moves on, there's mortgages, businesses, children, things like that, which is fantastic. Massive, biggest part of your life. But there is that time when you're younger that you can really make some headway of just being about yourself. And I'm not a selfish person, as in I don't just do stuff for myself. But I think to give everything to a sport, you can't have too much else going on.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, I was the same. I had no kids through my 20s. I was able to just fully focus on what I was doing with the bodybuilding. Like you say, eat when I want, sleep when I want, train when I want. There was just no real responsibilities. I only had one gym at the time, and that was kind of running itself. So everything was fully focused on that. But I think that's how you get really good at something, by really dialing in on that one thing.
100%.
And just going all for it.
And I see it now with the guys that have done so well in Strongman. They're getting a bit older, and they're starting to think, well, I might be out of this soon. So they're thinking, right, well, I need to make some money. I want to have a family. I want stability. And by doing that, they take away. And don't get me wrong, the guys are still doing great. But I just think to put that base in when you're young and you can do it, you build a lot for your future life just by getting your head down. And yeah, not going out partying too much. I was
going to say that's quite a difficult thing, though, isn't it? Like you're exactly right that's the time to do it, but then that's also the time of other distractions, the partying and the socialising and stuff like that. So how did you kind of cope with saying no to a lot of that? Because you will have had to say, obviously, I'm sure you enjoyed yourself when you were younger, but like at the same time, you have to say no to a lot of that.
Yeah, I did actually, and I still went out and everything like that. And I did say no to a lot, but again, hindsight's such a great thing. Looking back on, my life so far, I think I gained more than I lost, because I've had experience. I've travelled all over the world. I've got experiences in sport. I gained more than missing a few nights out, and I still went out. I just watched what I'd drink. You know what I mean? And sort of tried to look after myself. Me and my partner have been together since the start of my career, more or less anyway, and she was a competitive powerlifter. So it was quite easy because she's as mad about training as me. So it's very easy when you've got someone next to you that's like, right, we're training tomorrow, let's maybe go home at midnight instead of 5 a.m, and they agree with you, do you know what I mean? So having a good sort of partner helps as well to push you along.
So important, mate, so important.
If you want to train every day, and you've got someone that doesn't like training next to you, well, it's going to be difficult. Or whatever it is in life, if you've got someone that doesn't support you, you're not going to be able to do it properly.
Well, that's right. And I mean, look, it looks like a very sort of individual sport, what you do, because you're out there on your own. But behind the scenes, like you say, I know that Verity, my wife, played a huge part in my success. Without her, I would have never reached the levels that I did. Yeah. And I'm sure obviously the same for yourself, having that supportive person at home that understands when you've got to go to the gym, understands that you can't miss that meal and stuff like this.
Exactly.
It does make a huge difference. It's all these small little percentages that add up over number of months and years.
It takes away a big mental strain, because you hear so many people like, I don't want to start getting people, they'll get with somebody and they'll be training, and I'm not saying about bodybuilding or strongman, they might be playing football or rugby. And then, right, well, you need more time at home. And then same person turns around 10 years later and says, well, you didn't like that when I met you. Do you know what I mean? What's happened to you? And they didn't want to train, you know what I mean? So if you've got someone that sees how important it is to you, and you see how important it is to them, you're halfway there.
Absolutely, yeah. They're saying they're as much a part of the success of your success.
Definitely,
It's not just about you and what you've done out there. Without them at home helping you, it just couldn't be done.
Definitely. And as you move forward out of one stage of your career into another stage, businesses and things like that, it's nice to see some reward, because there has been things that you've missed out on. But if you can actually turn it around and start a business and have some success out of it financially as well, you reap the benefits that you might have lost years ago through being stricter.
100%, mate. Yeah, no, absolutely. So, say like obviously you got like a sort of support network at home, but I know you touched there about the guys that you were training with initially, and they were very supportive as well.
Yeah.
Like, who were your initial mentors, and what did they kind of show you, or kind of that the direction that they pushed you? How did they kind of motivate you to really take this path?
Well, first of all, there was a few guys that aren't well known that I train with, just my friends that I started training with in the gym. A few of those guys would just like, maybe they weren't as strong as me, but they would really put some effort in and supportive. And if we say we're training at 6 o'clock, we're training at 6 o'clock, and it was important to them. If I was getting ready for a show, they'd be there supporting me. And then obviously people that are involved in the sport. I met Dave Warner, who's a referee at World's Strongest Man now. He obviously works for Giants Live. He helped me a lot. He trained in the gym that I trained in. I trained with Mal Kay, guy over at Scarborough. He helped me a lot with the training. Colin Hogg, who owns gym in Scarborough, he was always the guy there for me. When I wanted to train for an extra hour, he'd wait back and all this sort of thing. And then moving through, I trained a lot with Eddie Elwood. He's been a big part of my life, friendship, and took me under his wing a little bit. He came into the sport same time as me from after winning his 5th Mr. Universe title.
Yeah.
And truth of it is, the guys around his area didn't really make him welcome. That he's a bodybuilder, he's not strong, and all this sort of thing. So Dave Warner said to me, because Dave was friends with him, I've got a friend coming over, because I had all the kit, you see. Wants to go and have a workout. So I let him come down, but I didn't want loads of people. I wanted people that were getting ready for shows on my kit. There's a lot of people wanting to train that, without being rude, they could have gone to a gym and done what they were doing. We were doing some, like, the workouts were so intense, and it was all real heavyweight stuff. And it was all like looked like an old scrapyard. It wasn't like nice and pretty. It was all barrels and sacks and big heavy farmers walks and all this sort of thing, tire flipping. And so Eddie came down. He just finished his 5th Mr. Universe, and I've never seen anything like it. And then he'd got, obviously he'd won that, and then got slightly out of condition for strongman. He wasn't as lean as he would be on stage, obviously, as you know. But he was so strong, unbelievably strong. We didn't know what he was doing. So because I had all the kit and a bit of knowledge, he had the work ethic like nobody's business. He'd been a professional boxer, obviously Mr. Universe. Then he got into strongman. So me and him started training together a few times a week, and he was just really good because we were both so motivated. So he was a big part of it, and then just went through really. I trained with Andrew Rains as well, Stumpy. He was a former Mr. Universe as well. He was as strong as hell. A bit unique, obviously. He's only a short guy, shortest person ever to do World's Strongest Man. So I was lucky. All these people came into my life, and they all had faith, not in me. I had faith in them as well. They were monsters, but they helped me a lot, and they were all very grounded people. You know what I mean? Like, they weren't big-headed or anything like that. And they were, I can remember saying, like, so I was getting good, and then was like, who's this guy and all this? It kept me so level, kept me on a total level. There wasn't any bullshit. There was no showing off or anything like that. We were a team getting ready for shows, and that's what we did. There wasn't any, you didn't get above your station. You just weren't allowed to. And again, looking back, that was such a great thing. So yeah, I was just very lucky with the people around me. And I tried to take a little bit of each one of them's knowledge, and they probably learnt off me a bit as well, I hope,
So you mentioned obviously great names there that you've obviously trained with and stuff like that. When you were getting ready, initially, were you kind of doing your own programming, or did you have a coach that was doing that, or would you kind of let the more experienced guys program for you and you would just follow the plan?
Always did my own programming.
Okay.
Always did my own programming. I think it works okay. Whatever result I've got, people always say, could have done this, could have done that. I've always trained as hard as I could train. I honestly believe I got the most out of my body is what I could get. I pushed everything to the limit, and whatever result I got was what I got. I never one of these, I could have done this, could have done that. I've had some close calls. I've had a bit of luck, a bit of bad luck. But I think I'd be wrong to not think I didn't put my all in, because I did. You know what I mean? If I turned up to train, it was a proper workout.
Yeah. So obviously, in the early days, you didn't have the gym back then. So,
no.
like, what did a sort of week of training look like, and how did you kind of balance that with your day job at the time? How did you manage that?
Well, I've done a bit of all sorts really, but I always tried to make sure there was a job. I was always like buying and selling cars and things like that. So I was sort of trying not to ruin my body too much by working, if you like, and then putting all the effort into training. If you're doing 3 strongman workouts a week, you don't want to be going digging holes for a living, you know. So I mean, basically, what I'd do is I'd do 3 to 4 workouts in a gym, and then usually 2 heavy strongman workouts, maybe like a Wednesday and a Sunday. And I'd do 4 events each day, and it'd all be tailored around whatever was coming up in my next competition. I was very much, I wasn't one of these guys, some of these guys now that's massive and are just sort of good at everything. I had to train to be good at stuff. Like, although I was naturally strong, I had to do that event. You know, I had to have everything programmed right. And knowing the events for me, which you didn't get to know that, it wasn't like it is now with the shows that I run where you can get, you know, I could tell them now what's at Britain's Strongest Man next year if they want to know. Whereas with us, you get a few weeks. So I'd try and train as much as I could. And then it was sometimes got easier as I got towards the show because I could drop a few events out. Because, right, well, I ain't got that. Well, there's a relief, you know. So sometimes my programming in the last 6 to 10 weeks was easier because there was 4 or 5 events that I might not have to do.
Got you, yeah. So, like, you know, obviously with your training as well, you mentioned the actual gym workouts that you did. But was there much of an emphasis on cardio? Because obviously you see like the old style strongman, you know, with the big gut and all this sort of stuff. And that's kind of like, you know, certainly never a look that you had. You were always in good nick. And, you know, obviously you got people like Prudenowski that kind of changed the game. He looked like he could step on a bodybuilding stage while still winning world's strongest man. So, you know, what sort of emphasis did you put on your cardio on a weekly basis and also like your nutrition as well? Like, you know, did you have someone that helped you with that, or is that something again that you just kind of did on your own plan? And, you know, what did your nutrition sort of look like?
I mean, my nutrition was, what I did was I had sort of I had a good diet, so I'd have a base of a good diet with a crap diet on top of it, if that makes sense. Okay. So I'd always make sure I get all my protein in and the right amount of carbs and all that sort of thing. But if I wanted to have pizzas and burgers, I would, because those workouts we were having back then, you know, 3 and 4 hour event training workouts. Brutal. You burn off so many calories. I don't even think they would now, you know, I don't think they've even worked it out. You know, if you look at the workouts that they do, it's not like a normal spin class, you know, 1,000 calories. It's serious, you know. You know, we've had days where we're stopping eating halfway through a workout and getting on to carry on, you know. So I always worked the diet out myself. Cardio-wise, what I did was more like the fartlek type training. So most of the events, well, you've got a 60-second time limit, so you only had to be fit for a minute. So it was all, I never had to do any fat burning stuff because there was so much training anyway. It just kept me lean. I never worried about what I ate. I never dieted as such because I'd never been a big eater anyway. I never have been able to eat a lot. So I just ate as much as I could and it seemed to work, you know, keeping the calories quite high, keeping the protein in. I used to drink a lot of my calories, maltodextrin and things like that. As far as the cardio is concerned, what I used to do was at the end of every strongman workout, I'd get a load of light equipment. So you've done all your heavy stuff, and I might get a load of 100 kilo barrels, and I'd like line 5 of those up and do 3 sets of 10 meters with each one. So it's like, by the time you've done like heavy stuff, the 100 kilo barrel feels like nothing. So you're just doing that. And like, I never really burned out at a show because I'd always do that end of every workout when I was tired. Yeah. And you know, a lot of people thought it was overtraining, but it worked for me.
Did you put much emphasis on like rest and recovery? I'm always interested in this with guests that come on, because obviously we have that sort of mentality of got to work harder, got to do more. You know, obviously sleep's super important, and you've touched there on making sure you got enough calories in. Is that ever something that you actually really thought about much? And, you know, make sure you're getting that sleep, or you know, they do things like the ice baths and stuff like that.
Yeah,
is that something you ever did really?
Honest truth is, no, I wasn't educated enough on that. But now when I look back, the ice baths, even the things like now, like we provide blood tests for all our athletes, so they know that everything's all right, and you know, right, that you're not hydrated. We have a hydration test before they compete. You know, they can tell if they're low on anything. a company called the Blood Group comes in and does all the athletes, so they all know. And I wish I'd have had that, because I'm not sure whether, I don't know, was everything running right? I don't know, because I didn't have any blood tests. You had them before World's Strongest Man and Britain's Strongest Man to make sure you're generally healthy, but the real blood screening now will tell you that you're having the right nutrition.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was speaking to John Hodgson on the last podcast, and we were talking about this, because like back then wasn't really that, certainly as accessible as it is now. I mean, I actually have my bloods done with a guy that trains at your gym, Chris. So I go see him over in Knaresborough and get mine done on a regular basis. But when I was actually back competing, I think I got maybe one done at the doctor's in the entire time I was doing it.
Well, I got 2 a year done because of the contractually with World's Strongest Man and Britain's Strongest Man. But I just went, they're all good. I'm healthy enough, and that's it. It wasn't a matter of proper screening.
Yeah.
And I think this is a new thing, and I think it's so important, A, because if there's anything wrong, you pick it up, and B, like a couple of lads this weekend, the blood test comes back, their iron's a bit low. It's so easy to fix, but with low iron, obviously you can't compete properly. You feel terrible, and it's an easy fix. There's all these things that they've got now. Again, now a quick test to see if hydrated enough the night before, because obviously if you're not hydrated, you're going to get injured. You can't perform right. So we do all this now. So I wish I had that. And the ice bath thing, I've only just got into that now, and I think it's great. But no one was doing it.
No.
Reality.
No, that's it. I think, like you said, social media, and I suppose just everything's more accessible now, isn't it? Information like that. I mean, I'm doing the cold showers on a morning, and I feel great off that, to be honest.
I never thought I liked it, but I really like it.
Yeah, you feel absolutely invigorated after it. You feel wide awake and ready to go once you've had one of them. So, but excellent, mate.
I think everything just moved on. Every sport's moved on like that. And I think things like strongman and bodybuilding are probably one of the last ones to catch on, because, financially, most people are supporting themselves. So buying a £2,000 ice bath in your back garden and a hot tub and all that, probably wasn't on top of your list when you were competing, because you were thinking about your shopping bill. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, you're exactly right, mate. And like you say, I suppose, like with the professional sports, where they're getting, the football and the other ones, they've already got that financial thing in place, so they can have the cryo chambers and all this sort of stuff. But like you said, most people are struggling just to pay the food bill in strength sports and bodybuilding and stuff. So, but yeah, like you say, it's become a lot more accessible now with these blood tests. You can get the home kits and stuff like that, and more people are taking a bit.
I think it's fantastic. I think it's safer as well.
100%, 100%, mate. Because people are going to do what they're going to do anyway. You may as well know what's going on, and at least, like you say, most of the problems will be easy fixes.
Yeah, catch stuff early.
Exactly. So, obviously, you touched there on being a little bit shorter than most other strong 5'8", which in strongman terms is pretty short, right?
Yeah.
So how was your mentality going into certainly the open class? Like, did you have that sort of underdog mentality? Is that in your mind when you were training at all?
Truth is, it never really bothered me. I just knew I was strong. It bothered me when stuff was set up that I couldn't do. There's been a couple of occasions where, you see me pressing Atlas stone above my head and stuff like that, where everyone else just put it on the shoulder. But it is what it is. You can argue I don't have to lift a deadlift or a log as far over my head, do you know what I mean? So it never bothered me. But one thing I always had was, there was always like, if I was in someone's group at World's Strongest Man in the early days, I'd be like, oh yeah, well he only weighs, 120 kilos. And well, I think the first year I went, I was like 115. The next guy to me was like 160. So they'd look at you like, but then you started to compete and they soon realised that you were there. I wasn't there because I was the smallest guy. I was there because I was fucking strong enough. You know what I mean? And I always had the mentality that I was pound for pound strongest man in the world. That's why I did the 105s, and I won the 105s, because when they opened that category up, to be quite honest with you, I'm not belittling the 105s because it was great, but I got far more out of doing the heavyweights because there was no limits. So that's why I sort of dipped in and out of the 105 just literally for a couple of years, because I got more going against your likes of your Pudzianowskis and your Savickases and your Brian Shaws and things like that. But the 105s was good fun. But I did believe that pound for pound I was strongest in the world.
So obviously there's certain exercises that would have been a disadvantage, but was there some that, like you say, were actually easier for you because
Yeah,
you were
exactly.
a little bit shorter.
A lot of the cardio stuff, if you're lighter, well, you're at an advantage straight away. I never worried about blowing up. If I set off with a medley, I didn't worry about losing cardio because I just didn't, because I trained so hard. Where a lot of the guys who were that big and strong, they get 20 metres down the road with the farmer's walk and they were blowing out their ass, whereas I'd never have to worry about that.
Yeah.
I worried more about grip and the strange thing is, at the start of my career, I was winning all the speed events, and then towards the end, I ended up winning a lot of the powerlifting events. I mean, I've won deadlift in massive shows. I won deadlift at World's Strongest Man before. I was one of the best log pressers in the UK at the time. There was only a couple of people that could beat me in the UK at log press and overhead press. Whereas when I started, I was just winning all the speed events.
So the ones that you obviously they were like the ones that you were actually better at for being a little bit shorter, but the ones that were a little bit harder, like how did you train for them? Did you try and go, I'm going to put the extras in to get better at that?
Definitely.
Or did you? I was going to say, or did you kind of like just go, do you know what? I'm just going to put more focus on the stuff I'm really good at, or did you try and like say level up on them ones that you weren't that good at?
I tried to think really broadly about every show, because some people would be like, they didn't like an event, they're like, oh, that's that event, I don't like that, so, or they might not see that as they might not see a forward hold or something as a proper strongman event, but that got you the same points as winning the deadlift or the log or the stones. So I trained a lot of my weaknesses. At first, my grip wasn't very good, but I ended up with a good grip because I just trained the hell out of it. Like I say, I was probably, when I first started, a little bit behind in the deadlift and the overhead. I ended up being really good at deadlift and overhead. Yeah. But the cardio always stayed. And I found when I went above 120, my cardio dropped off, but my power didn't go up that much. So I found just staying about 120. So everyone's like, why don't you get a bit bigger? Why don't you go to 140 and stuff like that? I'm like, well, because I know in the breadth of a competition, I'm losing the fitness. And I wasn't getting that much stronger by putting on extra weight. And I was just basically, most of the time at World's Strongest Man, it was for reps, deadlift. I only did a few maximum lifts over my career because it was just whatever was there. And repping on a deadlift, with 350 kilos around that sort of time, that's what they were doing, 340, 350. By the time you got to a few reps, it was more your cardio that went. It wasn't the power. Yeah. So I found, because my cardio was so good, if I could pull 400 kilos, I could pull a couple of reps on 390. Do you know what I mean? Where some people that couldn't rep, I was beating people that were actually a lot stronger than me because they couldn't rep on the weight just underneath, whereas I could because
they were stronger at the 1 rep max sort of stuff, but they couldn't do
exactly.
Yeah. So you were again kind of dialing in what you're doing specific for the competition, and not just like ego lifting for that 1 rep max, which really don't mean that much in strongman.
And also, not leaving it in the gym. A lot of people do this to try and lift as heavy as they can in the gym, and then get to the show and they're overtrained. You know what I mean? I learned how to hold back a little bit before competing. A lot of people have got to lift full bore, and then they're tired by the time they get to a show. You need to be fresh. You don't run a marathon the week before you run a marathon, do you? You know what I mean? Yeah. So makes sense. A lot of people do a lot of ego lifting, and it doesn't really. People, relatively, whatever a pro strongman's done, or a bodybuilder, or whatever you want to say, whatever they do at home, how they look at home, what they eat, what they lift. When you're on stage or at a competition, nobody gives a shit about what you've done in the gym. Yeah. It's just that they're going to remember. Yeah. Whereas people say, oh, yeah, well, I've just done this in the gym. And then they get to the show, get a bit nervous, and not do as good as they could. And I always found that a shame. And a lot of people that were great in the gym and then couldn't perform.
Did you ever get very nervous before competitions?
No, not really, no. I was always okay. A little bit, but a little bit does you good, I think. But I was never...
Give that a little bit of adrenaline.
Yeah, I always loved it. First event, a little bit nervy, a little bit butterflies. And as soon as that was over, I was just sort of in it. Really, it was a really nice place to be, you know what I mean? And a lot of times you were away for a couple of weeks competing, let's say if it was World's Strongest Man or Britain's Strongest Man, in the old format it used to be. So you'd go away. And once the first event was out of the way, I was just, honestly, it was such a great feeling.
Loving it, yeah.
Yeah. There was no nerves anymore. It was just like, you're just at battle then, you're just going for it,
My name's Colin Wiseman. I'm on week 11 of the Mansummation Programme with Stuart Garrington. Been tough. It's the good type of tough that when you realise all your mistakes the previous year of eating too much and drinking too much.
I'd just say whatever your goals are, it gets you there. I set out with this as a 12-week programme, and like I say, I plateaued for 10 months, and within 3 weeks, I beat my expectations.
I've had to have surgery during the programme, but we've not changed anything, we've just changed the programming slightly. It's been great all the way through it, so yeah, I'd recommend him 100%.
It's one of these things, I think, if you give it a chance and have a bit of self-discipline. I'm into the 5th week now and I literally feel the best I have done in years, to be honest.
So obviously when you were, like I said, you were 16 in the gym, 12 stone, 12 and a half stone, and you had set that goal for yourself to qualify for the world's strongest man. Was it 2006, your first time that you qualified for that?
Yeah, I'd done the lighter weight one before that.
Yeah.
I actually got invited in 2005, but there was a big split in the federation, and they basically IFSA, which was the International Strength Federation, they split up with World's Strongest Man. So I was sort of with them, so it was a bit of a weird one, really. That got sold off and just sort of disappeared, but a lot of the athletes were signed up to that, so I didn't go to Worlds in 2005. I did the lighter weight World's Strongest Man. And then in 2006, I did the lightweight IFSA World's Strongest Man. Got invited to the heavyweight worlds, and I won the 105 worlds, the IFSA one, and then I went to the World's Strongest Man, and I was sort of reserved for the final at World's Strongest Man, all within 1 year. So I'd gone from being 105 kilo world champion to almost in final World's Strongest Man between March and September.
Wow.
So it was like up and down with weight and everything like that, but it was good. I mean, I'm not sure anyone's going to do that now in the same year again, you know what I mean? And then I just stayed heavyweight then because I just enjoyed it.
So what was that feeling like when you were in that open World's Strongest Man for the first time, and you kind of thought, from being 16 years old and having that dream to actually realising it?
It was great, yeah. I mean, obviously, I'd done Britain's Strongest Man, so people think I was lightweight and then went heavyweight. I was a heavyweight strongman pro in like 2000, 2001. I'd done Britain's Strongest Man from 2001 right through. My last one was 2016, believe it or not. I came back and had a little go in 16. But I did that, and then I just did the lightweights for a couple of years in between, but I was going up and down in weight. But the first time I got to Worlds, yeah, it was great. And all I wanted to do was not come last. I just wanted to be right, well, he's there and he should be there sort of thing. You know what I mean? That was the goal.
So you in the qualifying group, you end up in the same group as the eventual winner, Phil Pfister. Is that right?
Yeah.
And you finished, and you did kind of, I think you did finish bottom of that table, didn't you?
Yeah.
So how did that feel? Is that kind of like you were just happy to be there, or was it, coming last in that group, that kind of like light a fire to come back stronger next time?
I just realised that I could do it. You know what I mean? And the guys that I was up against, I'd won them in a few events. They beat me in a few events. It all came down to on the last event, any of us could have gone through to the final, apart from maybe the last one. And I just messed it up. Basically, I dropped a barrel and messed it up. So there was Russia's Strongest Man in there, a guy called Elbrus Matuli, Mark Felix, who's still competing now, Phil Pfister, a guy called Dominic Feely, who I think was Canada's Strongest Man, and who else was in there? I can't remember who else it was. So, but the top 4 or 5 of us could have all gone through to the final, and I just totally messed it up. If you rewatch it, I dropped a barrel, the barrel went flying, then I panicked and went back, and it just got a bit crazy. But to be honest with you, when it was done, I was really happy because I put my all into it. I had a bit of bad luck, and that was that, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So you went back the next year, and I think you were in with Pfister again, and you came bottom of that qualifying group.
Yeah.
Obviously, still crazy achievement to be there. But did that leave you thinking that you needed to kind of change your approach to the training, or was it kind of just continue what you were doing and you believed it would happen for you?
Yeah, just continue really. I mean, it was a massive achievement getting there. 2007, I don't know. I trained really well for it, but then I got there. I didn't seem to be. You know, I talked earlier on about people training well in the gym and not performing. I just didn't perform there. You know, the deadlift that we did, I'd done it at Britain's Strongest Man, the same weight and everything like that, and won my heat in it, and I couldn't even finish it there. And I didn't really have an explanation for it. But it was good. I tried my best, and it was what it was. But that was one that I just felt like, I don't know, there was something not right. You know what I mean? I didn't just feel right. But it was good. I enjoyed it. It was great. That was over in California.
Yeah, yeah.
And that year I was third at Britain's Strongest Man. So I'd gone into it with good training camp, but just didn't quite all come together.
Yeah. And then you picked up an injury the next year. Did your hamstring? How did that happen?
Yeah, well, so Britain's Strongest Man, won my heat. So obviously we'd have heats and finals just like you would at Worlds. So I won my heat, but on the very last event we were wrestling. I put wrestling in there, and I pushed the last guy out of the it was like a sumo wrestling circle. And so I won it, and as I pushed him out, my hamstring went.
Is that still something they do now with the wrestling?
No, we all got injured. It didn't work very well that year. So I didn't go then. It was just unfortunate, really. And then I went into the final of Britain's Strongest Man. I tried, the first event was a train pull with a torn hamstring. So I got all strapped up and all that, and I just started pulling it. I was like, oh no, just couldn't do it. But
how long were you out for with that?
Not that long, really.
No.
It wasn't a massive tear. But the problem is, we've got a train pull to do. We had a train pull. We had wrestling again in the final. We had At the Stones. Everything was hamstring based. There was a farmer's walk. There was a car flip. So my leg went black. You know what I mean? And I've got it all. I was sort of sewing knee straps together and putting it around my hamstring, thinking it had, just putting a lot of pressure on it, but it just wasn't going to work.
Wouldn't have it.
So
how did you change your trade? Did you just take time off after that and let it rest properly, or did you keep training and just kind of adapt to what you were doing?
Just adapted, yeah, and just went a bit lighter for a while and sorted itself out. I missed a few shows. Truth is, I probably needed a rest as well. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm looking at like 2009, the year after, and this is probably your best showing, I think, at the World's Strongest Man. You got third in the qualifier and literally just missed out on that place in the final.
Yeah. So I think because of the rest I'd had, and it to be honest with you, it pissed me off not going in 2008. You know what I mean? I was really, and no one's fault. It was one of those things, but out of the people in Britain, the 5 that were going, you know what I mean? I could beat them all. Not them all, but I should have been there with them. You know what I mean? And we got quite a close team then going as well. So at that time we had Ollie Thompson, Terry Hollands, Mark Felix, maybe Lawrence Shahalai, I would imagine, Jimmy Marcoux, and we'd got quite a good team. We'd all got on very well. We went together and all supported each other, and I was left sat at home. You know what I mean? So when I went back in 2009, I'd really put a lot of effort into that, and I won the deadlift, won that event in there. Pressing was brilliant. There was a truck pull in there, which I did okay in, considering how light I was, and then just missed out on the final. And I mean, it came down to me and Marius on the stones, and he was a few points in front of me, so I would have had to beat him by a few people, which, reality of it is, it was Marius at that time, and he'd won 5 World's Strongest Man titles. But something, I wasn't being a defeatist. I was just happy to be in that position. It's a bit like if you got stood next to a prime Dorian Yates on stage, you know what I mean? You're just like, well, I'm up here, I may as well give it a go, you know what I mean?
No, absolutely. I remember when I won the Universe, I won my class at the Universe, and Lee Priest was doing the Universe. So in the overall, he was class 4 at one end, and I was one, and then they moved us in the middle, and I was just like, posing, like looking like this is so bloody weird. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So, but again, I'm just buzzing to be again up with people at that level, So, obviously, like I say, in that group, you had Fister and you had Prudenotski, So, but you still obviously, like I say, just missed out. But what was kind of going through your mind when you see those names? Because they was like the guys that won it over the last couple of years, and you think,
I think it was. I was in the hardest heat. I found. Yeah. But I mean, that's life. But yeah, I would just. I never thought I could win World's Strongest Man. I never went into it. I was realistic, but I thought pound for pound I was World's Strongest Man. So I just wanted to show that was my thing,
Yeah.
So when you get them two in your group, and there was other great guys in that group as well. I beat Marius on 3 events out of 6, but then what the events I didn't win him on, he beat me on a lot more. You know what I mean? And like I said, it came down to the stones, and he beat me on stones. because he was one of the best in the world at Stones. I can take that defeat. When I came back from that, I was happy. You know what I mean? I won. You know, I did my best.
I think you can, like you say, I think you can go, as long as you know you've done everything you could possibly done in that training camp leading up to it and stuff like that, then you got to be, you know, if people are better than you, then they're just better in your certain events. But like
Exactly.
if you've let yourself down by not training right, not eating right, all that, then that's probably going to grind you up even more because you know that you could have done a lot better. But if you put 100% into it, I think you've got to be happy with
That's it. I always put 100% into everything, and that's that really. You know what I mean? I think you know, you can look back and what ifs and regrets and stuff like that. I don't think it does you any good. I don't think I could have done any better in anything, because that would have been, if I said that, that's selling myself short, because I trained so fucking hard. You know what I mean? What more could I have done? I did as well as I could do, and I think you can sell yourself short. But if I'd have just done this, just done that, well, I think I did everything I could.
Yeah, and hindsight's a great thing as well, isn't it? You know,
that's it. Yeah.
But you spoke then about like the camaraderie between the UK guys. Obviously, a little bit of rivalry there, but a friendly rivalry.
Well,
did you guys all train together, or?
Well, there's rivalry at Britain's Strongest Man, but yeah, everyone just come down. Everyone just come to my gym and train. Everyone's always just come to mine and train. So we've always got on well. Like now, everyone just stays at my house. They all come and train and still do it. You know. But yeah, not a massive amount of rivalry. And if there was somebody, there's always one dickhead, isn't there? You know what I mean? But there were so many good people there that they just stood out. You know. And when we went to Worlds, we were all put in a separate group, so we didn't go through there.
Was that done on purpose that you couldn't be in the same group as someone from the same country? Or
because it was on BBC and then Channel 5, you know, they put us in a separate group, so they had one of us in each group for Channel 5, and so we went as a team, you know what I mean, and we'd all go out and eat together on a night and help each other out.
Fantastic.
So although we'd just competed in Britain's and Europe's and whatever and battling against each other, when it went there, because we're in a separate group, I think it worked really well actually, and good guys, you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, excellent. So 2010, you know, obviously, I suppose you're kind of hoping to kind of build on that, what you did in 2009, but you ended up tearing your bicep in the first event. You know, what happened with that?
Well, I was just, honestly, it's strongest I'd ever been. I came off 2009 positive as hell. 2010, it was in Sun City in South Africa. I'd won a few shows that year. I'm trying to think about Britain. There wasn't a Britain Strongest Man that year, I don't think, for some reason. Or I certainly didn't do it anyway. And when they're really positive and went to testing yard and everyone's there and we're able to test everything. And it was just great because everything felt so easy. And a lot of people were sort of talking about what great form I was in. Everyone's coming and saying, everyone see you've done this in yard and that. You go down to the yard to test things. I just found it all so easy, you know, that year. Training was absolutely perfect. I was probably about 123 kilos, which is about the right weight I wanted to be. I was in good nick and just felt great. And I'd warmed up on the tyre, flipped it 4 or 5 times. It was like a 500 kilo tyre. Set off. I was in the lead in my group. And then bicep came off on the tyre flip, on the first flip of the actual show. So that was it. Just went home. Just literally walked off set. Right, that's me. Get me home.
And that was your last appearance at
Worlds,
yeah. So when did you decide to step away from competing? Was it because of that injury, or did you do a little bit after that?
Yeah, I did little bits and pieces, but I just wanted to get into business. I had a couple of sort of health scares and stuff like that, so I just thought, right, I'll get into business, which I was always wanting to do more stuff. The gym was going quite well, and I just sort of I dialed it back a little bit. Really. We'd had a child, so obviously, like we talked about earlier, responsibility and things like that. And just thought to myself, if this ends, I'm going to be pretty lost. And I saw people retiring with nothing to do, and it's a weird place to be, you know, when you've been known for something, you know, Mr. Universe, Mr. Britain, all that, and then, you know, all of a sudden, what are you going to do when it ends? Yeah. You know, it's like it's a weird place to be, and I didn't want to be in that place. I've got quite an active mind. I always have to be on with something. I've never just sat and just let life go by. And I was like, I cannot just let this end, and then I'm just going to be sat there, just like without me just a guy just sat there like doing nothing.
Yeah, I think that, like you say, it does become ingrained in part of your identity. Darren the strongman, Darren the world's strongest man competitor, and when you're a very driven, focused guy, you have to have something to channel that in, and business makes the perfect.
Well, like I say, I see people
really.
that haven't, and they've just stopped. And even some of the guys, I won't mention names, but some of the guys that have won World's Strongest Man, and it ends and they're just like, they don't know what to do anymore because everything's been about this one thing. I don't think it's just about strongman. I think it happens in just about every sport. Yeah. And if they ain't got people around them, they ain't got family to help them, it's serious. People can really lose their way with it. And I struggled with it. No one would have known. I didn't struggle like I wasn't going off the radar and going crazy or anything like that. I just, in my mind, I'm like, fucking hell, like, what am I going to do now? Like, this is, this. I know I can't do this forever. I don't want to do it forever because I'm not one of these, I can train 50% and still go compete. No, it was 100%.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a thing, where you could do it easy. It's like, this is either your life or you can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I looked at what I could do business-wise, really. In 2011, I was getting ready for World's Strongest Man. Couldn't go. And so they were going to send somebody else. And I didn't agree with who they were going to send instead of me. So I said, you shouldn't send this person. You should send this other person that I thought should have gone. So I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put on a show outside my gym. And we'll invite everyone that we think might be able to qualify, and whoever wins it, send them. And they agreed to do that for my place. So I put on a show outside my gym, and literally we had like 500 people turn up. So I just started to think, wow, actually, people, I haven't really put much effort into this, and there's 500 people watching it. And at the time, well, you were as well. Me and you were both sponsored by Multipower.
Yeah.
And they used to have me doing days at Leeds Rhinos. I don't know whether they did with you, but they used to have me doing like little strongman days and stuff like that at the Rhinos.
That's how I met Ian Kirk, who was on the podcast before. Because obviously Rhinos were sponsored by Multipower as well, and
that's it.
We met him at one of those days. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know whether you were at some of the days that I did with them. I can't remember.
No.
But anyway, you go down there, and I got to know them all. And I said, "Oh, do you rent out that Headingley Arena?" And they were like, "No, not really." And then more, I got some. We will do if you want to rent it out, but we don't really. It's not a thing that we do. We don't really rent it out. So I rented that out, bought the title of Europe's Strongest Man, put like a European patent on it, and did that. Literally sold my soul, every penny I had, put everything into it, and just pushed on with that, really. And that was the first sort of big arena show that was, I think, probably done in the UK that was a success anyway.
That was 2011, or was that 2012?
It was 12.
Yes,
12, yeah.
I remember you invited me down to that one. And I think I'd just come off the back of winning the NABA World Championships in the June, and then a couple of weeks later, me and Verity came down to that, and there was a do up in the Sky Bar.
Yeah, there was. I remember you in there. Yeah.
And I walk in there,
a lot of monsters wandering about.
Bodybuilding world champion. I just been feeling absolutely great about myself. And then
felt tiny.
Oh my god, I felt like I'd never trained a day in my life. They are just in real life. Some of these guys are
huge. Yeah,
unreal.
Yeah,
absolutely unreal.
No, we tend to have some wild parties afterwards. It's cool.
Yeah, that's good, man. So obviously, like you say, you've then progressed that on to actually co-owning Giants Live now, and since you've you yourself and Colin Bryce that own that has just skyrocketed Strongman. You guys do some great stuff with that right now. Yeah.
I mean, it all sort of. I was putting on Europe's Strongest Man there, and I had the logistics, and I just really wanted to move it forward. And again, I'd put all this effort into myself and my career, that I just thought I'm going to have to put that direction into something else. So Colin had started Giants Live with a big multinational company, and they'd put on a couple of shows. I believe Madison Square Gardens was one of them, and I think they did Wembley as well. And it didn't really work. Lost a lot of money, so they just gave it back to Colin, gave the keys back, said that didn't work, thanks very much. So Colin ended up with this sort of shell of a company, and he was putting on some shows here and there, doing not doing fantastic, doing okay, and I'd put on Europe's Strongest Man, and as it was moving on, he said, "Oh, can I make it a Giants Live?" So basically, you need X amount of money to film it. So a company came in and they sponsored it. It was My Protein, actually, in the early days. They paid for it to be filmed. It was the sponsorship covered the filming, which got it on Channel 5. So although it was my show, it was a Giants Live, which belonged to Colin. So we did that for a couple of years. And then I started, my brain starts going again, and I want to do more and more. And Colin said, why don't we team up? Because he had the TV and the know-how about the, just about the digital side of it and everything like that, and making a show, if you like, you know what I mean? And I knew how to put things together logistically, and so that's what we did. We decided to, instead of being against each other and both doing separate businesses, we put it together and consolidated what we had, which became Giants Live. And then we just started booking arenas. Every time we made a bit of money, book another arena.
So these Giants Live shows that you do, all over the world now,
yeah.
Are they all like qualifiers for the World's Strongest Man?
Yeah, everything's qualified for World's Strongest Man.
Is that the only way you can qualify for World's Strongest Man? Through this Giants?
Or been a previous winner.
Okay, yeah.
And there is sometimes there's wild cards that we give out and things like that. But if you want a guarantee, you've got to do that. I also have a company called Official Strongman. So that's an online qualifier. So we have a World Championships in America every year. And basically, there's all the other World's Strongest Man titles, World's Strongest Woman, Masters World's Strongest Woman, there's over 50s, under 105, under 90, under 80, and the different female categories. And so we give away all the other World's Strongest Man titles, apart from the heavyweight. But whoever wins the Official Strongman Games heavyweight championships, the top 3 get to go to a Giants Live. So it's all based on online qualification. So the idea of that, if you said, look, I want to do it, I want to compete against people at your weight, over 40, you can just go online and do it and qualify for a World Championships. And we have like 400 or 500 people competing in that every year. The final, it's like a CrossFit type thing.
Yeah.
And then that gets you to a Giants Live. And then obviously, if you come top 3 Giants Live, you go to Worlds. So there's a really nice, because when I first started, there wasn't that.
Yeah, you've created a real nice system and a progressive route for people to see where they're at now and where they want to be if they want to go right to the top.
That's exactly it. So there's no excuse. People say, how do you qualify? Well, there it is. And if you've just won Britain's Strongest Man and things like that, obviously that's going to get you through as well. And there is an element of common sense who's going to get invited,
Of course.
That's what we do really, and it's just growing every year. The fans are great. We put on a big sort of spectacle now. It's not just a matter of big strongmen wandering about. It's fireworks and all the
full show.
That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, like you say, it's not just the shows. You're getting more out there on social media, and so like you've got, like you said, the YouTube channel that's exploded.
Yeah.
You've got your own podcast, the Giants Live podcast, on Spotify and Apple iTunes and stuff like this now. Like you say, you are totally taking it up to that next level.
Yeah.
They still do it Channel 5 that week in between Christmas.
That's it. Yeah, we're on Channel 5.
Yeah. As I say, that's like the traditional part of everyone's Christmas, isn't it? Like
Strongman.
Yeah, exactly. The only thing with bloody social media now is you already know.
That's the problem.
You didn't used to know when you were.
Well, at first you try and hide that, but you can't now.
Yeah.
At first you go, we don't post stuff, guys, and let's just. It's like we can't do it.
Impossible.
Yeah.
Impossible.
Some of our shows, you've got 12,000 people there.
Someone's
he's going to get out
tweeting
there,
it or putting it on Facebook.
That's
absolutely,
So things change, don't they?
Absolutely, yeah. And I don't think it takes away from that time because, like I say, that week in between Christmas and New Year is kind of just a traditional thing that most people sit down and watch.
Eating turkey sandwiches and watching World's Strongest Man.
Definitely. So, obviously, like I say, you're now flying in business, mate. What would you, but to go back to the strongman days, what would be the biggest lesson from strongman and training and competing that you've taken that you can apply into everyday life and I suppose into business as well?
Just back yourself really, and have a plan. Do you know what I mean? And try and be unique. So you get, especially now on social media, everyone's got something to say about what you're doing. You know, you can put the most positive thing you can on social media, and someone will say, "Oh, that's bullshit." You know, you've got to back yourself. You've got to ignore what people say. If you're gonna for strongman or sport, I think you've got to try and go with the sport that suits you. Some people are never going to be Mr. Universe. Some people can grow muscle, some people can't. Some people can run a marathon, some people can't. Me and you, we're never going to be marathon runners.
Definitely not.
You know what I mean? I think sometimes you've got to go with what you're good at. I went into a gym, I was strong. Right, well, that's what I'm doing then. Whereas I see some people pushing the wrong thing. So your body type, I think, yeah, you've got to have good genetics and you've got to have a good mindset, but go with your body type. You know, don't try and be a heavyweight strongman if you're great at 105, and vice versa. If you're a massive guy, don't try and diet down and be something that you're not, and then keep that positive mindset. And as far as business is concerned, one bit if you can't handle pressure and stress, don't even do it, because that's what you're going to get. Business, if you got a business, you know yourself, it's pressure. You've got to be able to handle it and sort of compartmentalise it. Because if not, you'll just go crazy.
Yeah. Do you think it's helped you going through that sort of becoming really mentally tough and mentally resilient through the training and all the competing? Do you think that is helping you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think as we grow up, we all learn, don't we? And if you're not learning, you should learn from everything, really, shouldn't you? You know.
100%.
And I think, I think there's a lot of people that are very clever, but if you can't handle a bit of stress, there's no point in getting in business.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so if you could go back to day one in the gym, and you could do it all again, what would you do differently?
Well, not a lot really. I mean, attitude-wise, I wouldn't change anything because I know that I gave a lot. You know what I mean? I know that I gave a lot. What would I do differently? If I could go back and know what I knew now about nutrition and sort of, like I say, the blood tests and things like that, the cold therapy, it wasn't there then, but if I knew that, I would certainly be using it.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's, again, it wasn't there. There wasn't an ice bath in the gym like there is now and all these things, and cryogenic chambers and you know, now what's the other thing that we're doing? The pressurizing chambers that everyone's doing, hyperbaric chambers.
Yeah.
You know, I'd be doing all that now 100%, but it wasn't there. But as far as telling myself, what would you do? I wouldn't have fucking listened anyway. So, you know what I mean? I was so sort of bullish about what I was doing. I think that's why I was good at it, if that makes sense. I looked at everything that I could look at. Every bit of time I had was looking at the eating, the training. So I probably wouldn't change a lot, if I'm honest, because I enjoyed it. I don't look back and even whether I did good, whether I did bad, I really enjoyed it. And then moving forward with the business stuff, you know, I think you've got to take a risk at stuff. If you believe in something, you've got to take a risk. And I did that, and now it's paid off, and I will still take risks. You know what I mean? I've always been one of them that I probably always had, in the early days, probably a bit better car than I should have had, or a slightly bigger house than I should have had. But I think that I work quite well under pressure. And I think that putting a bit of pressure on yourself, we'd get going with Giants Live and we'd have 3 or 4 arenas, and I go, right, I'm going to book another arena. And Colin's just like, oh, fucking hell. You know, are you sure? I like the pressure. I like to keep things moving up and up and up. I don't like where it's just like, right, oh, we're sorted now, so we'll just sit tight.
Well, that's interesting. And again, that kind of comes back to like staying in your comfort zone or taking yourself outside of that. Because if you want to grow and you want to get better at something, you have to go outside that comfort zone. And like you say, if you've got a car that you can comfortably afford and you've got, you know, just a couple of arenas booked and nice, steady, we know we're going to sell them out, you're never going to grow forward.
I could have stuck with one arena and had a really nice lifestyle and just kept going, done Europe's Strongest Man every year, you know. But like you say, you've got to take yourself out of your comfort zone. And then also, the other thing, I think you've got to sort of think about what sort of person you are. If you're not that sort of person, that is like, you don't have to be like that. Not everyone has to be a businessman or whatever. You know what I mean? If you work 9 to 5 and you go home to your wife and your kids and you're happy, don't do it. Don't do it. But some people, you know, like that risk and like the challenge. But you're not a bad person if you don't. I just I cannot sit still. I can't just sit and oh yeah, I'm going to do 9 till 5 and all that. And do you know, I know a lot of people that I respect massively that do. I wish I could. Sometimes I look at people, you know, that are just like, right, I do this, I finish at 5, I go home, spend some time with my kids, you know, not, you know, weekends away and all that. I go on holiday, I'm just sat thinking, I just want to be getting on with something. I hate sat by pools and all that. But I look at people that are doing it, and I envy them sometimes because I can't do that.
But then also, I think if you've got that sort of entrepreneurial sort of mindset and that drive to do something, what you're doing and where you're taking Strongman, you're elevating it from just that, like say that program that used to be on BBC, you see it once a year, or Channel 5 once a year. It's everywhere now, and you're getting more people into the sport, like you say, with this new qualifying system and stuff like that. And that's because you can't sit still. And you're growing a bigger vision, not just for you, but for Strongman as well.
There's always people out there that think, you know, when you're doing something and it's out there, if you like, you know, you've got a lot of fans out there, you always get someone going, oh, that you shouldn't do this and this system's wrong and all that. Well, I ain't stopping anyone else from doing it. I'm just doing what I think's right. You know, and I know there's critics out there that might say, well, that qualifying system's not right, or that weight category, or that's too heavy, that's too light. Well, no one's stopping else from doing what we're doing, but that's what we're doing. We're getting on with it. We don't criticise other promoters or athletes that don't want to do our shows. We just do our own thing and cross our fingers and hope we're doing a good job, you know.
You know, it seems to be going all right, mate. So, I mean, what's next for you? Obviously, you know, do you have any more plans with Giants Live to take it even bigger and better? Obviously, you've got the gym, Absolute Fitness in Boroughbridge. You got a lot of the guys that train down there and stuff like that. Have you got any? You know, what's next for you?
Yeah, like if you'd have asked me this question any time in my life, I've always got like, oh, I'm going to do this, going to do that. But I try and not be that person that says they're going to do something, because a lot of people are doing stuff and never do anything.
Yeah.
But I try and not be that person. If I say I'm doing something, I want to do it.
Yeah.
Or at least try.
Yeah.
You know, even if you fail, if you've had a go, you know, that's brownie points, isn't it? But the next big thing is, before the COVID situation, in my mind I had a bit of a plan of what I wanted to do, which was do another few shows in America. I'd been to Vegas and things like that and booked an arena out there, looking at a few different states. And what I want to do now is what you see in the UK with the Giants Live. You sit down with your popcorn and your beer for a couple of hours, watch it, you know, and it's a fast-moving entertainment show. I want to take that more worldwide. The shows that we've done abroad in the past have been a little bit not quite there, but I want to take it now financially where we can just say, right, we'll have that big arena and this is what we're doing. And if you don't make a lot of money, it's fine. It's the long goal I'm looking at. But now we're in a position where we can actually roll it out, but roll it out properly. Not saying, oh, well, we'll just do it outside in that small arena because, you know, we don't want to risk any money. We want to do it properly and we want to have it. So if you sit down at a Giants Live in America or in Poland or in wherever you want to go, it's the same as if you sat in Leeds Arena. You know, we're in Royal Albert Hall now, we've been in Wembley. So we've sort of got a good resume now to take it around the world.
Yeah. And you kind of standardise that quality no matter which show you go to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you know that's what it is. And if you turn it on TV, you know it's a Giants Live. That's my plan, really.
Yeah.
Like if you turn on UFC or, you know, not naming any other names, but other fighting organisations.
Yeah.
You know it's UFC as soon as you turn TV on.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I want to be. I want to be like, oh yeah, that's a Giants Live.
Yeah.
And I think we're getting there already. Nothing is substandard. Everything's top quality. Everything's filmed like movie quality. You know what I mean? The athletes, everything is the Giants Live is the top athletes in the world. When we invite people to say yes, no, oh, I'm not sure I've got this. They say yeah, I want to do it. You know. And then as far as the rest of it's concerned, I want to build like a training facility for all the athletes. They all come and train now, but I want to make like a Giants Live Centre of Excellence where everyone comes over, and maybe where the public can come and train with the stars as well and get their knowledge.
I was going to say, is that somewhere that you'd maybe just think about bringing like younger potential talent through?
Exactly, yeah. Exactly.
Do you do much coaching with the younger guys at the moment, or is it mainly just the pros that come and see you?
If people come in my gym and they want helping, I'll always help them. And if I see someone with a bit of potential, I get a bit excited. You know, we've had a few guys come through that have done really well. not financial. I don't do any coaching financially. It's just sort of if I like them and I see a bit of potential, and then obviously I've seen so many people come through the gym, the top guys, that you get to know a lot of the things that people are going to do wrong before they do it. You know what I mean? I've been around so much strongman. I know when people get it wrong. I think that's no different to any sport. If you spend enough time in it, well, don't do that and do that.
100%. And like you say, you can pass down that knowledge from, I suppose, them couple of guys that first took you under their wing gym in Harrogate, all them years ago.
Oh, definitely.
And like you say, you can pass that on to the next generation that's coming through.
I think, and if the guys are humble enough as well, it's a bit of a strange thing that is strongman, because you get a young lad that gets quite strong. Sometimes they get a big old chip on the shoulder, you know what I mean? The reality of it is, when they get into the real world of strongman, it's another level. I think people, you see a lot of people that are strong in the gym. So, you might go into a gym and someone's they're 300 kilos. Well, that's not even a thing in strongman, 300 kilos. You know what I mean? It's not. Our deadlift opens at 400 kilo now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like another level. So it's you can see people coming a long way off, which obviously it was nice that people saw that in me, but you can see them coming if they've got the right attitude and the trajectory is right and they're getting stronger and stronger. You can really help manipulate them, say, right, well, don't do that. Sometimes they're as well staying down the powerlifting route for a little bit longer and getting that core strength.
Creating that base, yeah.
As opposed to then training 50 events, you know what I mean, every week and just burning yourself out.
Yeah.
Just get where they're actually a strong human being before you start working on all the agility,
Awesome, mate. Well, look, mate, we're going to leave it there. I really appreciate you coming down like you are. Like you say, for as successful as you've been in strongman and now in business, you're a real down-to-earth, humble guy, so, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come over here, mate, and talk to me. So, yeah, Daz, thanks a lot, mate. Appreciate
no worries.
it.
Thanks,
Thank you.
buddy.
Cheers. Thanks so much for listening. Please remember to like, share and subscribe. And if you need any more information on the Mansummation Programme, just hit the link below.